I'm George Rice, Executive Director of the Association of Public Safety Communications Officials, and which is one of the 9 national public safety organizations represented under the banner of the Public Safety Alliance, a partnership which includes the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the International Association of Fire Chiefs, the National Sheriff's Association, the Major Cities Chiefs Association, the Metropolitan Fire Chiefs Association, the Major County Sheriff's Association, the National Association of State EMS Officials, and the National Emergency Management Association, all working in concert to ensure that public safety professionals have the communications tools they need to protect the safety of our public. This effort is also supported by over 40 state and local government associations, whose leaders also know that safe and secure communities begin with the provision of effective and efficient public safety service. In just a moment, key public officials will outline for you how critical it is that Congress pass legislation to allocate directly to public safety communications the spectrum resources needed to make real on the promise of a nationwide broadband network for public safety. After which, members of the Public Safety Alliance will field questions. First we have, for the community perspective, the Honorable Mayor of the City of Houston, Texas, Annise Parker. Madam Mayor.
Thank you, and it is my honor to be here today and to have taken part in the presentation before the Senate Committee this morning. I am honored to represent Houston, but I am proud today to speak on behalf of, get it the right place, speak on behalf of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, for whom I chair the Committee on Criminal and Social Justice. We in the U.S. Conference of Mayors support the Broadband for First Responders Act, introduced by Representatives King and Clark, the Public Safety Spectrum and Wireless Innovations Act, introduced by Senator Rockefeller, on which we spoke today, and the First Responders Protection Act, introduced by Senators Lieberman and McCain. These members of the House and Senate have all listened to the appeals of the public safety community, and they have responded. While the men arrayed behind me can go down into the weeds on the technology of what we are discussing in the D-band, let me talk to you about some very simple words that cause me great concern in the presentation this morning. Admiral Barnett of the FCC used the phrase that local first responders would be allowed to negotiate priority system overrides with appropriate compensation. Now, I'm sure they're concerned with the allowed to negotiate, and I can tell you as someone who has to balance a local budget, the for appropriate compensation really causes me concern, because as always, while the promise may be that these issues will be addressed at the federal level, I never want my first responders to be put in a position to decide, can I do this? Should I override the commercial communication system in order to respond to an emergency? Maybe I don't have the money. And who's going to make that call? This is something that has to be addressed on a national level. I would also say that as a city that is in the process of migrating our radio system so that we can achieve interoperability with our county, because my 2.2 million people cannot communicate with another 3 million people who are represented in the county, and they could be across the street from each other. We have to have a national bill that allows interoperability across this country so that we don't have this fractured patchwork and all the burden be on the local areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now for the Public Safety Alliance perspective, we have Chief Rob Davis of the San Jose, California Police Department, representing the Major Cities Chiefs Association.
Thank you very much again for everyone for being here, and I'd like to thank the Mayor of Houston also for joining us and for that support that comes from so many different sectors of our communities. Let's face it, it's almost a decade now since 9/11, and we still do not have the broadband network that we need in public safety. That's almost a decade and we don't have it. That's unacceptable. But I would like to give some thanks here today because we owe a lot of people thanks or we wouldn't be standing here. First and foremost, I am very grateful for the efforts of Representative King of New York and Representative Clark, who led the way in helping us understand, helping people up here on the Hill understand the importance of what we're doing. I really want to thank those two representatives from the state of New York. That helped us secure as well the support of Senators Rockefeller, McCain, and Lieberman. And you know as well as I do, as we look across this country, there's a lot of questions in our communities about whether or not people up here on Capitol Hill get it. But after listening to Senator Lieberman, after listening to Senator Rockefeller this morning and his statements in our hearing, I have to tell you, for me, it breathed new life into the fact that some people up here on the Hill have common sense and that they get it. Senator Rockefeller gets it, Senator Lieberman gets it, Senator McCain gets it, Representative King gets it, Representative Clark gets it, and we're looking for the rest of the people up here on Capitol Hill to get it as well. We're talking about common sense. We're talking about the ability of our public safety providers, our first responders to emergency, to be able to communicate with each other. And to suggest for a moment that we're going to be able to get that support if we simply turn to commercial networks is not realistic. We don't have an issue with our commercial vendors. We recognize the value that they play in our community. They will be our partners as we try and build these systems. But time after time after time, we've learned that you cannot rely on those commercial networks in the middle of an emergency. And it's been told to us that we can rely on those commercial vendors, that they will give us some priority access to the networks. We've learned that that's not realistic just based upon our own experiences. The people in our communications centers that are running our data, they need to be able to control that switch in the very moment that there's an emergency. We can't count on having a good liaison representative to a commercial entity who we can call to try and get them to do a few things for us on the fly when we're in the middle of an emergency. The future demands that we act now, and this is a window of time in the history of public safety for people to come together. Look at the support behind us here. When have you seen this level of support from the mayors, the governors, the legislatures, fire, police, EMS, dispatchers, you name it? They are all here united saying the same thing. This is the right thing to do. It's the right time to do it, and we cannot afford to get it wrong. So on behalf of the major city chiefs, I want to thank our partners, and I also want to thank those people up here on the Hill who get it and who have breathed new life into this. We have to be able to say in the very, very near future, but no later than this exact time next year, that we have done this and we're well on our way to building that public safety network that we need. So thank you for being here, and please let our legislators hear what you're thinking about this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Davis. Next, we have Chief Russ Lane of the Algonquian, Illinois Police Department, representing the International Association of Chiefs of Police.
Thank you. It's really a privilege for me to be here representing the IACP and our over 22,000 members internationally, but mainly our 20,000 members of law enforcement executives around the United States who see this as a critical issue. And IACP has been in the forefront on this issue since the very beginning. We realize the importance of a network system where our officers can talk to each other in the adjoining municipalities, the counties, with the state, but also with our brothers and sisters in the emergency medical services, in the fire services, all those who have to respond to emergency situations. We need to communicate. It's our responsibility to those men and women who answer the call of duty every day to make sure that they have a communication system that works. It's refreshing, as already said, to see someone who gets it, to deal with our legislative leaders who understand, take a common sense approach, and understand that we need this. Now is the time to do it. If we don't take action now, this time will pass and we'll still be using Band-Aids to seal up the surgical wounds, if you will. We need to move. Now is an opportune time. We need to work cooperatively as you see this alliance here today. We have the support, and we're going to see this through and get it done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Lane. Up next is Sheriff Paul Fitzgerald, Story County, Iowa, representing the National Sheriff's Association.
Thank you all for coming. This is certainly a very important issue that we're working on all across this nation of ours. This really began about 2007 in earnest, when with the Public Safety Spectrum Trust began working on the wireless broadband issue. Unfortunately, those that needed to listen weren't taking us seriously enough. So then all of public safety came together, and that was our first step. Then from there, the big seven got on board. And now we find that today we have bills that have been presented not only from the Congress side with Peter King from New York sponsoring 5081 on the House side to give public safety broadband, the D block to public safety. Now we also have had this with hearings in Rockefeller's committee today on the Senate side, along with McCain and Lieberman's bill. This has taken up energy that we have not seen before. We have seen first responders all across America united. When this is done, we're not talking only for the major population areas of the country. We're talking of a nationwide approach, border to border and coast to coast. And this will allow everyone, whether someone is in a critical accident, and information that can be given to the hospital directly from the scene so the doctors can read what the patient's injuries are and begin medical care at that point, all the way to firemen getting blueprints at the building, to law enforcement getting maps for emergency response techniques that we perform. This is something that has been a long time in coming. We no longer can sit back idle, and what you see today is law enforcement, fire, and EMS, and a whole host of other first, second, and third tier responders that have come together to give us this energy and this support. I thank you very much.
And thank you, Sheriff Fitzgerald. Next up, we have Jeff Johnson, Fire Chief, Tualatin Valley, Oregon Fire and Rescue, and past president of the International Association of Fire Chiefs.
Thank you, George. Good afternoon. Senator Rockefeller held a spectacular hearing today, and he had in mind one thing: the interest of the citizens of this country. When the senators and representatives in Washington, D.C. are taking care of public safety and allowing us to do our job effectively and efficiently, that's how you take care of the citizens of this country. I figured out a long time ago the one thing that taxpayers want from those of us that are in government service. They want us as cheaply as they can get us until they need us, then we better be spectacular. The truth is, we can't be spectacular, we can't even be functional unless we have modern day tools to solve modern day problems. The D block allocation to public safety, the avoidance of the auction are critical to public safety's future, and they're critical to public safety doing our job. Were it not for the likes of Senator Rockefeller, Senator McCain, Senator Lieberman, Representative King, and all the co-sponsors and supporters that we have on this Hill listening to the voice of public safety, our ability to do our jobs in the future will be as compromised as it is today from a technological perspective. We're grateful to the senators and representatives who are hearing our case. We're grateful to the administration for opening their ear and on such an important issue. And we're grateful to those at the FCC that are hearing our cries for assistance and listening to what we believe is a profoundly persuasive case. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Johnson. And next up, we have Charles Dowd, who is Deputy Chief of the New York City Police Department.
Good afternoon. I'm here today to share with you some of the things that have been happening with the Obama administration over the last month that have been extremely encouraging to us in public safety on this particular issue. One of the concerns we had was that the administration needed to engage us from a operational ground-up level right up to the technical requirements of a network like this. And what has happened over the last month is that the administration has held a series of forums, 3 of them, at very high levels with high-level members of the administration's Office of Technology, the Commerce Department, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Department of Justice. During those meetings, we have, through their facilitation, been able to define to them what this means for public safety, what this communications capability will mean for public safety. We need a nationwide interoperable broadband network, and it has to do what we need it to do in order to protect you. The administration has gathered the information. It has been an intense process. We spent this week a day and a half with those members of the administration, again, at very high levels, including people from the Vice President's office. And those folks are listening. And we are greatly encouraged by that. And we are looking forward to getting this done and getting the support of the administration on getting this done. And based on our experiences over these last 3 forums, we believe that that's going to happen. It is now, and you've heard it before, it has now been 9 years since September 11th. And I was in the New York City 911 Center on that day. And every anniversary of this, we all relive that. And to be at the position we're at today and to not have solved this problem is unconscionable. I don't want to listen to 911 calls or radio transmissions anymore where we can't help somebody or the radio transmission goes unheard because cops, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel can't speak to each other or to communicate. We have to solve this now. And again, we're grateful to the administration for their efforts in trying to help us solve that. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Dowd. Very sobering comments indeed. And lastly, but far from least, we have from Chairman Rockefeller's home state of West Virginia to discuss the effects on rural communities, Steve McClure, who is the Director of the Jackson County, West Virginia Emergency Medical Services.
Good afternoon. To paraphrase something that was said at the hearing today from Senator Rockefeller, at home in West Virginia we know tragedy all too well. Just this April, the nation joined us in mourning 29 brave souls killed in the explosion at the Upper Big Branch mine. The grim reality is that every state represented in this Congress, there are emergencies and crises. And that is the truth. Every state has the same problems that I spoke about today at the hearing. I tried to represent a little bit of the rural side of emergency services. Every state has a lot of rural areas that we can't communicate in. Cell phones won't work because it's not feasible for the commercial interests to put towers up because they can't make any money from that. Radios, the antiquated radios that we use now, can't get through topography. And as a senator stated earlier, West Virginia is around 96% hills. We've only got 4% flat land. We have tremendous trouble in West Virginia, and all other states have the same issues. And yeah, I want to thank all the people that's been pushing this to get it to go. There's so many technological advantages we can have with the new technology that we can get with this bill that we need to try to get through. We can start doing more for our patients, more for our first responders, more for our police officers. We can do so much more. And it's awful to have to say, you know, it's out there, but we just can't do it. So we need to look at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director McClure. I would direct all of you for follow-up to psafirst.org. That information on the website is updated regularly to include press releases and the like. Thank you very much.